Good morning and welcome to the Stronger Than My Excuses show. I'm Julie Watson and I'm the host for the pilot series for 8 weeks, and this is our last show in the series. But I want to let you know that we will be having another series in 2020 which will be broadcast in around March, so you can look forward to more insights from our panel of experts then. Again, we are supporting the same groups of people, which is micro, small and medium business, as well as charities, community organisations and not-for-profits. And I do want to mention that we are supporting the Iris Foundation, so not only with what we're doing, because we do talk about a lot of mindset issues and we try to resolve them by giving you action tools that you can take away, but we also want to let you know that there is a QPR course that you can do. I've just done it online, and it's CPR but for the mind. So it teaches people how to interact with someone that might be talking about suicide, or even if you think they are, and it teaches you the questions to ask. So QPR stands for question, persuade and refer. But if you want to find out more about that, go to the Iris Foundation website and you'll see a link there. And on the Central Coast, it's actually free at the moment to do that course. Really important to do that. So we do donate 10% of the profits of the show to the Iris Foundation, and they support prevention of suicide. So it's very important. Now, I want to let you know also, keep watching, because at the end of the show, I'm going to talk to you about something else that we've got coming up, which is going to support everyone from farmers to personal trainers. It'll be marketing managers, mums in business, you name it, Rotary, Lions, all sorts of community organisations, and even school kids. So we'll talk a bit about that later in the show. But for now, I also want to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Darkinjung people, and we respect this and them and the elders, their elders, past, present and emerging. And now I'd like to introduce my co-host. I'll start with Adam. Adam Rice is the Principal Director of AJR Counselling, Coaching and Consulting, and he is a credentialed mental health clinician, an NLP master practitioner, a psychotherapist, and he's also the co-joint lecturer of the Faculty of Health and Medicine at the University of Newcastle. Welcome, Adam Rice.
I've learned so much myself just being on the show. It's been awesome, actually.
Yeah,
really good.
It's really been good having you here, so thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Tara Millell of taramillell.com. And Tara is a human behavioural specialist and a business coach. She supports empowering women, which is very important, I think, because I'm a woman. Yeah. Okay, so also Tara does this through the Empowered Businesswomen's Facebook group and lots of other events and online programs. And we really love having you on the show, Tara, as a co-host. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Very honoured to be here.
That's great. And now Tara and Adam are going to introduce our guests for today.
Oh, who goes first?
Oh.
Sorry,
It's
do you want to
Tara.
go first?
It's Tara.
All right, go first.
I think we got you. Follow
Yeah,
the
you go
notes.
first.
Follow
That's
the
right.
notes.
Follow the notes.
So our first guest is Jacinta Outlaw from the Fifth Element. Jacinta is a behavioural economist and just a really freaking cool chick as well. She knows her stuff. She's an experienced, that's my summary. She's an experienced multidisciplinary business and marketing strategist with a career that spans over 20 years working with businesses and government agencies. Jacinta uses behavioural science, business architecture and product development combined with big data and online insights to drive new product development, reposition businesses and simply pivot businesses to gain greater relevance within their marketplace for rapid growth. So she's the co-founder of Maisie, which is Marketing and Segmentation Intelligence Engine. Jacinta is pioneering an alternate approach to audience segmentation using digital technology, drawing from multiple online data sources to identify real life personas. So this is absolutely, this is innovation at its core. So she's going to share with us some really incredible insights from all of her years of experience in business. So thank you.
It's amazing. I've heard quite a few things about Maisie, the Maisie program, and it just sounds incredible. So very good.
So I'd like to introduce Susan Rodak. She's a personal ANZ mobile lender for Central Coast North, the home loan member that comes to you. A franchise business that she successfully owned and operated for 15 years. Susan is also the owner of Battery World at North Wyong, and she's also heavily involved in the community and the treasurer of Wyong Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
She's also on the board for Cure Blindness Australia, and that position was motivated by your son who suffers from retinitis pigmentosa. Please welcome to the show ANZ's Susan Rodak.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here, and hopefully I can contribute, some important information that everyone can share.
Good, yes. And we really appreciate you being here. I've known Susan for a lot of years through the Chamber and networking. That's how I know everybody that I've met here is through networking, so it's amazing. And thank you both for joining us. And I'd like to thank our major sponsor, AJR, Counselling, Coaching and Consulting, and all our other sponsors that you see on the screen coming up now. And I'd also like to thank Philip Mampar, who is our videographer and editor. Well done. And I'd also just like to give a big shout out to Sarah Rice, who's been doing our hair and makeup. Not all of us, so if you see a bad one, it's not her. But no, she's been doing a fantastic job supporting us and helping us. So thank you, Sarah Rice.
And remember, every show will have action tools that you can use right away. And so far we've discussed some topics like isolation, fear, doubt, guilt, receiving and giving inspiration, procrastination, action, and not being too hard on yourself. And some of us will be here live during the broadcast between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Friday. And that means that we can respond to your questions almost immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. And thank you so much to the Nexus Hub for giving us this space, donating this space. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and like and comment on this video, and then share it out amongst your friends, because the more people who have access to this information, the more we can lift each other up.
Yes, that's right. So now, for our very last show, I want to really talk about, during the pilot series, we've talked about lots of different issues, and today we are talking about repetition, the importance of repeated learning and repeated actions. And there's different ways we can take this. So I'm going to start by actually doing that and repeating a couple of things just quickly to mention that if you go back and watch all the shows, which is what we recommend that you do, we started with isolation, and people suffer from isolation. We talked about getting out and networking. We talked about everyone having their own level of fear and doubt, some way less than others, but you need to recognise it and push forward. We talked about guilt. That was a really good topic, because sometimes a lot of, particularly people that run home businesses, they feel guilty that they're running their business when they perhaps should be doing the washing or the housework. We did talk about laundry being very important.
Yeah, sometimes gets too important. Too important.
And then we have inspiration. Some of us go looking for it all the time, and yet we can find inspiration from within just by looking back at what we've already achieved. And then there's procrastination. Well, a lot of us, I think everybody does a bit of procrastination in some areas of their life. We talked about how overcoming that is by taking action. And then the next show was all about action and the actual tools you can use to really push forward and always be taking action, using lists, using checklists, using some sort of programs that you can have on your computer, all different ways. And then we talked about setbacks, not letting them get in your way. So all those shows have already been aired, and you can go back and watch them anytime now, but we really recommend that repetition of learning so that you can not just hear it once, but hear it a few times, and you'll pick up different things. So all 5 of us are going to be discussing each of these questions that we bring up, so we'll get straight into it now and start with the first question. So we're all adults, and we think that surely that we're not children anymore. So as a child, we needed to be told numerous times, look before you cross the road. But as adults, we know the consequences of not looking before we cross the road. So we learn to take the actions, and we understand the consequences. So why the need for repetition and repeated learning and repeated actions? So I'll start with Jacinta, and I will mention that we had a bit of a chat a couple of days ago about this, about what type of repetition are we talking about here. So I'll hand over to you, and you can we can carry on that discussion.
Thanks,
It was very
Joey.
interesting.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
Really good question for business. And you do need to consistently learn in business. However, repetition in business context can possibly look a little bit different. So even as a franchise, as you're growing and establishing a franchise, you're actually quite agile in that. So really there's two ways of looking or approaching a business. And I look at them both as boats. So you can be a big tanker and quite rigid, and you stay quite close in your processes, and you repeat the same thing in the hope that it will actually work or that you'll attract the correct customer. And number two is a speedboat, and that's the agile approach. And so this is where you adapt and change. But even in amongst both of those, you still need to continuously turn up.
Yes.
And just get there and keep going. So an agile approach is much more about allowing yourself to fail, but learn in that. So the repetition of that is go out, try it, fail, start again, do it again and again and again. That's the repetition, I believe, is in business with agile approach.
And sometimes you will need to change it a bit,
Absolutely.
repeat it, but what are you tweaking? But it is still about going back and doing it again and again. And there's always learning from that. So what about you, Susan?
Well, there's so much to learn in business, and not everything, and repetition provides the practice that we need to specialise in certain areas of our business. So, say for sales, for instance, you need to keep repeating the same script or the same verses over and over. We do need to modify and refine for different customers, but you do need to have the initial outline of what you're going to say and what you're going to achieve to make sure that you have more success in, say, closing a sale or building longer term relationships with your customers.
Yes.
And it also gives you the confidence, you gain extra confidence that will lead you into improving your sales and receiving long-term loyal customers.
Yes, and of course you'd change that up, as you said, to suit different customers, wouldn't you? But the repetition of doing it, it starts to become a little bit more automatic. Some of the words that you may have struggled over in the beginning start to just come out automatically, and it does become more natural, and you do feel better, I guess, with your customers.
That's right. It is the key to habit formation. So then, because learning is a process and not a one-off task, there needs to be repetition to make sure that your learning is understood and applied effectively.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
So this is where, for me, what keeps coming to mind, the nuances or the slight differences between repetition and consistency.
Yeah.
Right. So repetition, and again, I think we've defined that we're not necessarily talking about doing everything in the exact same way again and again, because if it's not working, then it's not working. Why would you keep doing it?
Yes.
However, consistency is that idea of you consistently show up. You consistently try something new. You consistently apply your learning. So everything that you do, you consistently do it again and again and again, almost regardless of the outcome or whatever the outcome is. That just feeds back into how you're going to alter or change or be agile in your approach to once again show up to try it again. So maybe there's something in that as well, that consistency versus the complete repetition of the exact same thing time and time again.
I think you bring up a really good point, and I think it's like that saying that the person with the most flexibility will control the situation or the system, and that's like that. That can be repetitive. If you're finding things that don't work, find the things that do work, but also being able to kind of actually there was a business workshop I went to a couple of years ago, and I remember her having on the board that was like aim, fire, 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 aim, fire, 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 and that can become a pattern in yourself, and being able to be flexible in knowing what works, what doesn't work, and that in itself, having that habit forming of going, it's okay to fail, it's okay to make a mistake because it's just a lesson. And those sort of things are the important things, I think, to repeat and provide that repetition. There's also a saying, learn it until you get it in your muscle. It's kind of like kicking a ball or walking. It's your muscle memory, and just repeating that thing, it becomes automatic. It's also important to recognise too that if there's something that you're doing that's not right and you're repeating that you unlearn it.
And we talked about anyone in sport, you repeat the same drill over and over and over until you get it right. And of course there may be a new tactic that comes in every now and then, but you still got to do a lot of repetition in something like
Yeah.
that. So it's different with business, and there are trends that need to be looked at, and especially in technology and in Jacinta's business, hugely important. But sometimes we go to a seminar, and when there's two reasons when you're at a seminar that you need to perhaps go back to the same one again, or watching a video about something you're learning and you need to watch it again and again and again, because the first reason is that as you're watching here and the person's talking here, or the person's talking, and then suddenly there's a distraction at the door. So you're now up here, not here. The person's still talking, but you're not actually hearing or listening. And then you come back down and you will suddenly be listening again. And then they mention something in their speech about, well, when I was on the Gold Coast last week at something, and then you go up and go, oh, I remember when I was on the Gold Coast, and you're no longer listening. So distractions in the room, distractions in your own mind. We all know that no one can sit in a full day conference and hear everything. I mean, that's pretty well known now. So when you go back another time, you'll hear the things you didn't hear before. But the second part of that is that during life, things change for you. So when you go back, you might hear something that you heard last time, listened to, but now you've got a different perception of it because your life has changed. And now when he talks about this army thing, and now your son's joined the army, and all of a sudden you're listening to that because you want to know that part because that's more important to you. So it's not only what you missed out on through not hearing, but it's how your life has changed and how you'll pick it up in a different way. So repetition of learning is really important for those two reasons. You can't learn the alphabet by hearing it once. You have to hear it over and over. And the same thing with learning certain tools that you need for your business. So I think it's really important. But let's look at if repetition is important for business, what effect can this have on a new business or a business that's starting to waver and go, oh, I'm not doing too, and they're becoming that 80% statistic that won't be around in 2 years' time, but they really want to stay in business. So Susan, I'll go to you. So what changes can a business expect to see when they repeat this learning and in the right way, making sure that they're still open to change?
Yep, so it's good to learn from your customers what they want, then repeat and refine your messages, which will help your business improve and grow. The more someone hears something or practices a task, the more you remember, which will provide a more successful chance of delivering your message effectively and consistently.
Yeah.
Increasing sales, service, and building a reputation as a leader in your area of expertise.
Yeah, and you know what you're doing, so you're able to just support your people because you've repeated the lessons over and over, and you've repeated the learning, and now you're able to repeat the delivery of what you're doing.
Yeah, and refine it and make any changes along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important as well. Yeah. So what about you, Tara?
I was going to say, so there's 4 stages of learning. So first, we're unconsciously incompetent. You can Google this. This isn't my stuff, but this unconsciously incompetent. So you don't know what you don't know, right? So that's the first thing. Like a newborn baby, it's lying on its back. It doesn't know about this thing called walking. Like it's not even in its awareness frame. Then suddenly we move into that second stage, which we become consciously incompetent. We become very aware of all the stuff we don't know and we can't do, right? So suddenly, again, a baby starts to explore this whole concept of standing up, or it wants to get over there, but it's here. How does that happen? So it starts becoming aware of the things that it doesn't know. And then suddenly we move into that third stage. Third stage is consciously competent. Now, to go from stage 2 to stage 3, that takes that kind of repetition, repeated learning, muscle memory, but continuous action, failing, and then going back and trying again. And that is probably the steepest and almost scariest learning curve, to go to becoming aware of, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, which I'm sure all of us as business owners have been hit with, and then moving through that uncomfortable stage of just learning and trying and repeating and growing. So we then get to a place where we kind of know what we're doing. We kind of got the groove of this. We're getting into it, but we're still very conscious. We still have to think about what we're doing and how we're doing it. Then as we practice and repeat more and more, then we move into stage 4, which is unconsciously competent. And as we mentioned before, it's like driving. You know, we don't really think, now that we've been driving for a while, we don't really have to think about it. Now that we
autopilot.
that's it. Now that we've been walking for a number of years, we don't really have to think about it. I mean, unless you're in heels and it's a Friday night. But that's another story for later. But those are the 4 stages. So we have to be aware that any time we step up into the next stage of our business, into the next stage of consciousness or learning a new skill or a new habit, that we are going to go through these 4, you can't skip. We are going to go through these 4 stages, and that between 2 and 3 is the most challenging, is the steepest learning curve.
Because that's where you're trying to form a habit to make it a bit more automatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's I mean, I've mentioned that a couple of times too. In those 4 stages, I often look at that. But I think new business owners, especially if they're trying something new for the first time, that risk of failure is what scares them the most. Instead of moving through it and being, and I've often said that in the show too, be comfortable being uncomfortable, because it just means that you're learning and you're changing. And, you know, I think some people get too uncomfortable without being comfortable about it. So it's and that's when they kind of go, okay, I give up, or they back up, or, you know, but I mean, a number of times I've had to actually really push myself to do something. The other day I did some filming and I was in front of the camera, and it was for me, on my own, I can do it here. It's kind of easy. But I've got people to bounce off. But just to do it on my own is completely out of my comfort zone. But I'm learning. I'm just keep on doing it until I just get
That's good.
Yes.
unconsciously competent about it, you know. So,
Where it just feels natural.
Feels natural,
And just into
So just building on what you were saying, it's moving into a business context. It's about fast learning and slow learning. So as you move through your business and you become competent at the various different tasks and things that you need to do within your business, you know, that goes into the autopilot section of your brain. So, and then you that's the fast learning. And so then when you hit a new problem, you can actually engage in slow learning and or slow brain, and actually start understanding what it is that you need to do in context with what you have in front of you, and then move on from there. But also this failing is a really critical point, I think, with businesses, that you do actually need to nearly celebrate a fail. And these days, with technology moving as fast as what it is, fail fast is something to be fail fast and cheap. Is something to be very proud of. And because with that you are really super agile, and you're moving towards exactly what you need to do to get to that comfort place where you can actually go, okay, now that can be put into autopilot and I can go on to my next phase of business growth.
And realising it's going to happen. And the more you try to avoid failure, the more you are blocking your own growth in business, in your personal life. It's just, it can't happen. You then isolate yourself and cut yourself off.
Because not taking the action is not going to get you anywhere. And that's really the only way you can avoid failure. I don't know that anyone that's been successful has ever not failed, and you hear them talking about it all the time. And a lot of people think they're just funny little quotes or cute sayings that these people, but they're really good advice, and I don't think a lot of people take it. And really what we've just talked about today, people need to hear that again and again and again to really let that sink in. That was such a good point. Fail fast.
Fail cheap.
Fail cheap.
Build it and they will come should not exist.
It's just, that's really, really good. And, you know, I've watched some videos, some motivational videos over and over and over and over. And as I said, I learn things because I didn't pick up on them, or I've changed my attitude. And I really think it's important. And I do change. I learn new things and I watch new things all the time. So there's a balance. You've got to learn new, but you've got to repeat. You've got to get things into your brain until you go, you know what, I'm doing that this time. I'm actually going to do that action. I'm not going to sit around anymore and say, oh, other people can do this and I can't. I'm going to take the action. And it's not until you keep learning and keep doing that you suddenly realise, I'm taking the action, I'm doing it. And I'm failing and I'm doing it again. And I'm failing and I'm doing it again. And we've had some fails with the TV screens and different things on this show, but we're not giving up. We're just saying, well, we're just going to keep going. You watch next season, it'll be great. But so coming on to our third question. So I've made the assumption that we agree we need a degree of repetition, of learning, repetition of doing. We need to change it up to learn new things, and we need to take the action, and we need to learn from our mistakes. Fail fast. So I want to know if that becomes automatic and we start to function on autopilot, what are the actions that our viewers can take to begin the process of repetitive learning and doing things over and over again? What are some of the things people can do today to incorporate this into their business? And when do they need to change this up a bit? How do they know if they're just learning the same thing and it's time to learn something new?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think make consistency
Yep.
your number one priority. And it can start with what is one thing that I can consistently do right now. You know, that there's always at least 50 billion things that we have to do
Make
in
a
our
coffee.
business. Yeah, that's it.
I was really
But
good at
that's
making
fine.
coffee when I was procrastinating.
Yeah, well, that's
So
it.
maybe something else.
So what can you do in your business? One little thing that you can do consistently. And when I say consistently, it becomes regardless of how you feel, regardless of your mood, regardless of what life throws at you, you make it a priority to say, no, I'm going to show up in this way, or I'm going to make my phone calls, my sales calls on Fridays. I'm going to show up for a live video. I'm going to post every day, or whatever that is,
Yes.
and whatever consistency looks like for you, I think is really key, because we get all this other advice from other people, which is fantastic. That's great. But sometimes it doesn't necessarily apply to us, our lives, our
Absolutely.
business. And then we end up stressing out that, oh my God, I can't keep up with this. And go,
Yes,
but
yes.
you know,
I
that's
can-
not how your business works.
Can I just say that happened to me? That was a huge thing for me. I would be learning and going, oh, but so-and-so said I should do this and I need to add that and I need to try this. And it was all in my head, and I used to think, I can't do all this. So I would just not do any of it, thinking I just can't do what other people are doing. Then I decided to just take one person's advice and gradually change it and massage it around and make it my own, and do one thing every day and then another thing and then another. And I listen to people's advice, but I don't always add it into my routine because it doesn't work for me. So it's really important what you were saying. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, keep showing up.
Yeah.
Again, regardless how you feel.
Yes.
Because as you said, like fear and everything, that sort of creeps in. That holds us back. Self-doubt. Oh my God, failing. Am I going to fail? It's like regardless of anything, just keep showing up. Keep doing that one thing. Mold it, change it if you need to, but you're still doing that thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's mine.
So yeah, repetition and consistency is absolutely key when you're building trust with customers. So, you know, if you're saying that you're open from 9 till 5, be open from 9 to 5. If you say you're going to do a live broadcast on a Thursday night, do the live broadcast Thursday night no matter what. So consistency is really, really key in building trust amongst your customers, and turning up and just doing the do without doing the flash in the pan, you know, like I'll do a little bit of this and then I'll do a little bit of that. None of that works. Consistency does actually work in that sense, where when you commit to something, do it very, very well, and then just continue to do it and allow it to build.
Yeah. I guess consistency and repetition are a similar thing, aren't they? In a sense. I mean,
Like we were talking about before,
Yeah,
you know, you could
repeat-
look at repetition as doing the exact same thing over and over, which is not what we're talking about here, but then consistency is just that idea of doing an action.
Yes.
So the way you do the action or the task can vary, but consistent in the fact that you do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing the do.
Yeah, almost like being consistent about making mistakes too and learning from
That's
them.
it.
You know, that's consistency
you can
too.
be consistent.
You know,
yeah.
it's about how you can look at it.
Yeah.
Commitment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So in my business, I'd like to determine the most common scenarios in my business and role play these over and over
Yeah.
until I have the confidence to be able to deliver an effective message to my customers. This creates a perfect opportunity to practice real life workplace scenarios.
Yeah.
And just don't put it off any longer. Just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, I agree. Role play is really important. I used to do it when I was in a sales position, and it worked really well. And we just got used to doing it, and it worked like a charm on all of our customers. They didn't know they were being charmed, but they were. But I just think starting now, being consistent, doing the same thing, but learning from your mistakes, not putting it off because you're not perfect, but keep on doing it and being consistent. I think it's so important, and making the decisions that you've got to do these things again and again and again in your business. And sometimes they're things you don't even like. You've got to do your invoicing and your accounts and your book work, but they're just things. If you're in a micro business, especially, you're doing it all. So some things have to be repeated, and the more you do them, the better you get at them. But I'm going to ask everyone for their one tool, their main tip that they can give, that's just a quick 20-second sort of answer that someone that's watching can take away and use. I know we've sort of said this, but something they can use right now. So we'll start with Susan.
Or with me, I think just getting there and doing it. At first I was a bit nervous about coming on this show because I haven't done anything like this before. So I think just, if you're in business, just jump in and do it. And everything will just come to you as you go along. So
Absolutely,
that's my key thing for today.
Great.
So, thank you.
I like to anchor to something, and it's normally a statement. It's normally a statement from somebody who's actually done the do very, very well. And so mine for today is Dwight Eisenhower, so the 34th President of the United States and the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe during the war. And he said, "In preparing for a battle, I have always found plans are useless. However, planning is indispensable." And what he actually means by this is that by planning, he understands everything that's at his hand to understand a very uncomfortable situation or a turbulent situation that he may be going into, unstable, and there's nothing stable in business.
Oh, absolutely not.
So that's the one I anchor to.
As they say, business can be one big problem to solve. I think it was Paula Martin from the New South Wales Business Chamber that made that point on the show.
Yeah. Brene Brown talks about Eisenhower a bit too, and I like her analogy, be brave, because you can't have, and be vulnerable. You can't be brave without vulnerability. Brave the wilderness, become the wilderness. But just get in the ring. Just get in the ring. Show up.
Yeah.
Show up is the thing.
Yep.
Show up and just do it.
And that's what we've been talking about, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
just showing up and doing the do. And then whatever comes will come.
That's right.
Yeah.
So just show up.
Show up.
And isn't it funny how I've got here, no matter what, don't give up. When life gets in the way, start again tomorrow. If the kids, are in the way in the morning, and that was the morning you were going to start your new program or whatever it might have been, start the next day. Keep learning things that are on your list that you need to do. Keep doing them, and watch the Stronger Than My Excuses show over and over and over, because you're going to learn lots of good tips. We all know that.
So thank you everyone for your contributions today. They were really invaluable, and a lot of business owners, micro and small businesses, can take a lot and learn a lot just from some of these small tips. It makes a huge difference. Thank you again to our sponsors, particularly AJR Counselling, Coaching and Consulting. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
And all the other sponsors for appearing. They're at the bottom of your screen right now. Thank you to the film crew, Phillip Productions. Thank you so much. And the Nexus Hub, the co-working space as well. We talk about mindset, but please, if you have an urgent matter that's causing you stress, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14.
And this is our last show for this series, so please subscribe now to our YouTube channel where you can watch every episode. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. Watch out for our podcast and blogs. And remember to like, share, comment and ask a question. We want to help as many people as we can.
Yes, and this is our last show, so I think we give ourselves a pat on the back. We've done really well. Well done, everybody. And thanks to all the previous guests and co-hosts. It's been amazing. We did it.
We did it.
We did it. So I'd like to now thank our guests. So firstly, Susan Rodak from ANZ Mobile Lending. Thank you. And Jacinta Outlaw from the Fifth Element. been amazing having you both on the show, and I loved your insights. It's been a great discussion. And thank you to my co-host, Adam Rice, AJR Counselling, Coaching and Consulting, and also Tara Millell from taramillell.com. You've been fantastic co-hosts. I couldn't do it without you guys. I love it. So let's just remember that life will always get in the way, and we've certainly had our own setbacks on the show, and ongoing we will have future setbacks, but we're going to keep going. We've all learned from each other and learned from our mistakes, and so no more excuses. It's time to take action. Merry Christmas from all of us.
Merry Christmas.
And happy birthday to Chris, my son. And we'll see you all next year. Bye.
Bye.